You might be knowing this. In the PMP exam, you will see 50% of the questions from predictive development approach and the remaining 50% of the questions from Agile. Many of us might be comfortable with predictive methodology, but find Agile to be an alien. What if I tell you that Agile is 80% predictive from process point of view, and you can easily master the Agile way of working if you know predictive? This video is about knowing the predictive and Agile ways of managing projects and the commonalities and differences between them.
So let's get started. Okay, so we know that though we have 5 types of development approaches, for the exam, they boil down to only 2 things, either predictive or agile. Okay, if you are knowing almost all the requirements in the beginning and then doing a planning followed by execution, then it is predictive. All other type of questions, that is from agile, hybrid. Inside agile, we have iterative, incremental, and adaptive. We need to treat them all this as agile only. Okay, whatever questions comes from these development approaches, they need to be treated as agile. So fundamentally, we have only 2 development approaches for the exam: predictive and agile. So first, let's learn how things are done inside predictive, and then we will learn about agile. Okay, so this is how we do things in predictive. Because in predictive, because in some projects, we know pretty much everything in the beginning, right? The requirements and the scope would be clear. So we can do complete upfront planning and go for execution. That's the style we prefer. Because not knowing the requirements and then discovering them in the middle of the project and doing adaptive planning is too much of work. We don't need this if you know almost all the requirements upfront. So pretty much, if you have a project in which you know almost all the requirements in the beginning, we must do them those projects with agile. Okay, don't choose predictive, don't choose agile. Agile has, we need to put in so much of effort and time in planning, and this is not at all convenient. Okay, um, when you going to do a project using a predictive development approach, first thing is we do initiation. Whether it's agile or predictive, we first initiate the project. Okay, that's the first step. So initiation is where the sponsor will prepare the project charter. So before this, the business analyst and the sponsor will prepare the business case document and the benefit management plan document. And those are the inputs for developing the project charter. Okay, so a project charter is kind of a birth certificate. Every project, whether you do a project using predictive or agile or hybrid, every project must have a project charter. There is a myth, misunderstanding that people believe that project charter is only meant for predictive. This is not correct. Project charter will be there for every type of project. Remember this, it's an exam tip, okay? And this charter will be developed by the sponsor or by the PM. Both people can develop this, but who can approve this document? Only the sponsor. PM cannot approve a project or the project charter. So the business analyst and the sponsor will present the business case document and benefit management plan document to the management, top management. They will see whether this project has a potential to help us to make money, or is it aligned with the project organization goals and objectives, whether it will give us other planned benefits. Once they do this cost benefit analysis and risk assessment, the top management people will give go ahead. Okay, go ahead and do this project. Okay. Sometimes they say no, this business case and benefit management plan are not are good. We don't see potential, in doing this project. So let's drop this project. Then they will say no go or no go. Once we get the go decision, go approval from the management, the business and the sponsor will call the project manager, and they will develop the project charter. Okay, sometimes only the sponsor will do this development. Sometimes the PM will work with the sponsor, develop this. But once this document is developed, it will be approved by the sponsor. Only the sponsor should approve the project charter. So once we have a project charter approved, So now officially we have a project. Okay. Then once we have a project approved, we'll go for planning. So this is the job of DPM. Once the project charter is approved, now it's on the project manager. So the project manager should develop the project plan. Leading the project is with the leading the project planning is the role of or the responsibility of the PM. So here we prepare the scope, we do the scheduling, we prepare the budget, we identify and form the team, the resources, we do risk identification, and we find out how we're going to manage the changes to the plan components. Everything will be decided during planning. Are we going to outsource any work? If so, we need to identify the vendors and award the contracts to the selected vendors. So all those things will happen during planning. This phase will go on for a few weeks to several months, depends on how big the project is. Once the project planning is done, we will have the baseline and the project management plan. Okay, that's the intention of the planning, phase. Baselines, we will have three fundamental baselines. One is the scope baseline, second one is the schedule baseline, and third one is the cost baseline. Okay. When you say baseline, this is our budget. For example, cost baseline is our budget. We need to estimate and find out how much money we would need. And we once we created the budget, we get this reviewed with the key stakeholders, like the sponsor and other key stakeholders, and get their approval. Once they approve the plan, the budget, it becomes the baseline. The same with the scope. Once the scope is formed, we will review and get it approved by the key stakeholders. And once we got the approval, it becomes the scope baseline. The same with schedule. We will prepare how much time we would need to complete each activity and in which sequence we're going to perform this activity. Once we are done with this plan, we get this reviewed and approved by the key stakeholders. Once we got the approval, we have the schedule baseline. Later, during execution, in case if you want to make changes to these baselines, we must follow change management procedure because these are approved project plan components. And if you want to make changes to these components, we must seek approval of people. Moreover, in project management, the processes are interconnected. If you just increase the scope, it won't be enough. If you increase the scope, then we need extra time as well as extra money to perform the additional work. So we have to work on the scope as well as the scope. If you increase the scope, you need to increase your schedule as well as your budget. Okay, and that's why we go for change management. And we will also prepare something called project management plan. We will form many subsidiary management plans during planning. Scope management plan, schedule management plan, cost management plan, risk management plan, so on. We'll talk about all these things in the future. We integrate them and form the project management plan. Okay. So once we're done with the project management plan and the baselines, we're done with planning. And once we got the approvals, we will begin the execution. Okay. So execution would be the longest phase in any project. So you see here, we are doing a very comprehensive planning, the beginning of the project. We complete this plan once for all. And how we are able to do this, because we know the requirements, we know the scope of work, isn't it? Because we have the clarity, we are able to do this. We know how to implement this work packages. So complexity is less, requirement uncertainty is less. So we are able to do a master plan development. Once it is done, we go for execution. Execution is where we actually produce the deliverables. The team members will do the work, perform the work. Whatever work we plan inside the schedule will be done by the team members. Okay, for example, we say that we need to do foundation. It's just a plan element. The team members will actually do the excavation work, and we will, do the steel erection, pour the concrete, and do the foundation, actually complete the foundation. All right. So execution is where the actual work will be performed and the deliverables will be produced. So this will be the longest phase. And let's say doing a construction project, you will have many deliverables. We need to do the excavation work, foundation work. Then we need to construct the structures, wall, painting, plumbing work, electrical work. So once all these things are done, towards the end of the execution phase, we will have the total completed project scope, that is the house. Okay. Then we hand over this to the client and close the project. We will conduct few more activities during project closure, like lessons, updating the lessons learned register, closing the contracts, getting acceptance, sign off from the customer, stating that yes, I'm okay with the work, I'm happy with the work, and I'm accepting the work. Okay, so those things will happen during closure. So primarily, closure and initiation are the smallest phases in a project, but planning and execution are the biggest phases. And compared to planning, execution will be the longest one. Remember this. Okay, so this is the procedure we follow, and we have something called monitoring and controlling. Well, this is about ensuring whether things are going according to the plan. You have a plan, you want to complete some work with some amount of resources, some amount of budget, and within a given time frame, we need to check whether work is progressing accordingly. Are we taking more time or less time? Are we spending more money or less money? Are we producing the deliverables with the accepted quality standards? So those things need to be evaluated throughout the execution phase, and that's about monitoring and controlling. Okay, it's like diagnosis. Everything is going, you are traveling from point A to point B in your car. You have a schedule. Like I'm starting at 7 in the morning, I need to reach there at 5. So I need to drive the car at, let's say, 70 kilometers per hour. Okay. Because of unexpected things, you are facing some challenges. So to overcome these challenges, you need to do something. So we always check whether uh, our execution is in line with the plan or not. If they're not in line, then we either do something to improve the way how we execute things. We increase the speed of the car, okay, or we change the plan itself. We call people who are waiting at the other end and say that I won't reach there at 5, so I would reach there at 7, right? So that's why we have to do monitoring and controlling. Without monitoring and controlling, we will not know how the work is progressing. We cannot make forecast, okay? And stakeholders need this. After conducting monitoring and controlling, we periodically do this, weekly ones or daily basis, and then we inform this to the stakeholders in form of project reports, sharing project reports, or conducting status meeting. Okay, so that's about predictive way of working. Now, when it comes to agile, we don't have this luxury. You cannot make a plan like this. Is it possible? Without knowing all the requirements, can you do a planning like this? Impossible. So we're gonna do this in parts. We will create many small plannings followed by small execution. Okay, that's how we do things in agile. Well, in agile, we do not have the luxury to make complete different planning and go for execution. The remaining all regions phases are the same. So every project should have initiation and closure phase. So here we have initiation, here we have the closure. However, we cannot do a planning, a comprehensive planning, the beginning of the project and start, because many requirements won't be there. We will not know how to implement them as well. So what we need to do, we need to take this 2 steps and go for uh, small planning followed by execution. We take few items or a particular piece of work from the plan scope. We study about that piece of work, collect requirements, talk to people. We do trial and error. Sorry, we do trial and error. We do some research. We seek feedback, and then we say, okay, this is done. Let's move on and work on the other components. Okay, which is part of our agreed scope. So we do small planning followed by execution, and once we are, let's say, we need to complete some 15, let's say some 15 components in our total project scope. We'll take maybe the first item or maybe the first 2 items, And then we do a small planning. We focus on this only those two items. We know we don't know how to implement all this work packages or the features which are part of the agreed scope. So we tend to focus on few things at a time. We pick few items which are important for the stakeholders because we want to work on the high priority items first. We take them, then we study about them, we collect the requirements, we do something, show it to the client, get the feedback, again go back and improve the product based on the received feedback. And once after a point, the client would say, yeah, this is fine. So then we give it to the client and then move forward and work on maybe the second item or the third item in our scope. So we do many small planning followed by execution. And this perfectly works because you have a lot of uncertainty. So you cannot focus on everything at one go. So let's focus on few items at a time, deal with them, and move forward with the remaining items. So, okay, one step at a time. And that's why you could see many planning execution paths. You see here. So in this case, planning, a big planning followed by one go execution. That won't work out in Agile. So, and projects where you have requirement uncertainty and solution complexity. So we create many planning followed by execution paths. Now let's understand the anatomy of this planning execution path. So this planning and execution pair, each planning and execution pair is called as an iteration or a sprint. Both are same, they are synonymous. Uh, some people call them as iteration, some people call them as sprint, and they're the same. Okay. Now during execution, uh, we do testing. Okay, we do reviews with the stakeholders whether the work is okay or not. We do something called a product demo by end of every iteration. So this is where we do monitoring and controlling to check whether we have done the work according to the expectations of the stakeholder. Okay, and we also conduct something called retrospective meetings. Again, this is about monitoring and controlling. Are we doing any mistakes? Did we face any problems during this iteration or sprint? How to avoid them in the future? Okay, so this planning execution comes along with the monitoring and controlling and closure. Okay, we will have acceptance, for the done work by end of every iteration. This will happen during a meeting called product demo meeting, or otherwise called as sprint review meeting. We'll discuss more about them in the upcoming slides. Now let's understand the anatomy of this planning and execution paths. First is it all begins with a product backlog. When it comes to the product backlog, it's our total scope of work. Let's say you are developing a banking software. That's your project. Someone is approaching you, a client is approaching you. Let's say this is ICICI Bank. They're asking you, can you develop a banking website for us? We want to offer our client the possibility to do online banking. Okay, so you and the client is involved in a discussion. We are doing brainstorming, and then we did this product visioning process and figured out what are the features we need to have inside the product, the banking, online banking website. Okay, and we came up with a list of items. So when you put them in a list, it forms the product backlog. Here is an example. So you want to develop a banking website. So what are the features we're going to provide? User authentication. Okay, then account overview, fund transfer feature, transaction history, bank statement download, security enhancements, and then there are many other things, isn't it? Customer support, adding a payee, and so on. All right. So as customer support chatbot and so on. So and people wants to see their investment portfolio. Some people will go for investing their savings in various instruments. So these are the features your client is asking you to provide, and we put them inside an Excel sheet or a list document, and we call this document as the product backlog. Okay. For the exam, you need to understand this is our document. This is our document where we capture scope, the project scope. Scope is all about what are the work we need to accomplish and deliver to the client to successfully complete the project. So would you agree with me? If you complete all these features provided by the client, we can say we are done with the project, yes or no? If you complete all these items in the product backlog, we say we are done with the project, okay? And these items are independent features. So for example, let's say once you're done with user authentication, you can deliver to the client. Only that feature may not make any sense. Let's say you're done with two features. You are letting your end user to log into the website and checking their account summary and downloading the bank statement. Yeah, of course, we did not implement the money transfer feature, but still, we can deliver these three features. Would you agree with me? Yes, no, maybe. The users can go and log in and check their balance, download the bank statement. That would be nice, isn't it? So we can deliver these items. Later, maybe 2 weeks later or a month later, we can add the money transfer feature. And then later we can add the chatbot for the client to interact with the support team. Possible, isn't it? So we have the provision to deliver things in increments, and we feel that these items are complex in nature. We need to discover the requirements. So what we do, we use iteration. So this is the anatomy of the planning execution pair. Um, Normally, these iterations, or otherwise called as sprints, okay, they have a duration, fixed duration. They're called as time box. It's like meeting. So we start this on this day and we will end this on this day. So we have to fix the limit. Why? We need to create the urgency. Within this time box, we need to complete XYZ features. Okay, so we are creating a constraint. And what should be the size of this time box? What should be the size of an iteration or a sprint? It depends on our preference, our management, our team preference. In Agile, the standard is typically we will go with 1 week to 4 week duration. Okay. The very famous iteration or sprint size is 2 weeks. Okay, including the weekend. So let's say you're going with the 2 weeks iteration. This means we have 10 working days because we don't work on Saturdays and Sundays, isn't it? And team members also don't perform the work or they don't work on weekends. So we have technically 10 working days if you go for 2 weeks iteration. Once you set the size, we should not keep on changing the size because this will affect a metrics called velocity. Okay, we've learned about velocity as part of scheduling. So once you set a iteration size, we should stay with it throughout the project. So if you're gonna do many planning followed by execution, planning then execution, planning then execution, planning then execution, all of them should be of same size. That's the point. Okay. Sometimes if you want to extend the iteration or shrink the iteration, we should not do this for granted. We should, as much we can, we have to stay with the agreed duration. If you're going with 2 weeks, all the iterations you're going to do in your project till the end of the project should be of the same size, 2 weeks iteration. Okay. And we know that in 10 days, let's say we are going with 2 weeks iteration time box, we know that we cannot complete all the items in the product backlog in 10 working days. You assume that you have a team with you. And by the way, what is the maximum number of people you can have in an agile team? So 3 to 9 is minimum is 3, maximum is 9. So let's say assume we have 9 people, okay? And they're going to work 8 hours per day. So normally we work 8 hours per day. And in an iteration, we have 10 working days. Okay, if you're going for this is the bandwidth, isn't it? So everybody can work for 8 hours per day. We have 9 people, and they can work for 10 hours in an iteration. So that's the bandwidth. So with this availability bandwidth, would you be able to complete all the items in a product backlog? Definitely not possible, right? So what we do, we take few items at a time. So we go to the product backlog. Okay, we have this much bandwidth. We have 9 people with this. Everybody can work 8 hours per day, and 10 days is what we got in an iteration. Okay, everything is clear. Now, what we're gonna do? We're gonna think about it. Okay, this is our bandwidth. So how many features we can do in this iteration? So we go to the product backlog. We pick items from the top of the product backlog, because we will learn about something called prioritizing the items in the product backlog. We should always keep highly valuable items in top of the product backlog. Don't work on the chatbot first. Okay, if you're talking about online banking, we should provide provision to money transfer and checking the balance. Would you agree with me? These are the core features of online banking. So we need to first complete them. Yeah, we need to first complete them. Then we can work on additional features like uh, you know investment portfolio or chatbot or so on. Okay, so we always keep the highly valuable items in the top of the product backlog, followed by medium value items. Then low value items will be in the bottom of the product backlog. So we know that, okay, we did some assessment and we found that these two features can be done in this iteration. So we take them as our sprint goal. Okay, and we do a planning. So we know that we have 10 days. The first day of the sprint, day one, okay, day one, the team members will work together and prepare the plan. How we gonna implement these two features? So planning will be done. It's like schedule preparation and resource allocation, okay, which let the team members to do this planning. We will talk about why we let the team members to do this planning, because in predictive this will be done by the project manager, not by the team members. Okay, at least once the planning is done by the team members, it should be reviewed and approved by the project manager. But that's not the case with Agile. We encourage them, come on, guys, we trust you. You guys come up with a plan and let's follow that plan. We trust you. It's all about bringing in ownership and accountability. Okay. So the team members will do a discussion and then we'll figure out, okay, what are the activities we need to perform. So for example, let's say they want to implement user authentication. Someone has to prepare the user interface, right? Someone has to design the code. Someone has to implement the code. Someone has to do the unit testing, isn't it? So then someone has to review the code. So these are the activities they need to perform to produce the first item feature. And similar things, they need to come up with a similar, thing for the second item as well, activity list. Once they prepare the activity list, they do the estimation for each activity, how many hours we're going to take. For first activity, we need 3 hours. For code review, we need 2 hours. To do unit testing, we need 5 hours. So, and who's going to do this work? Sam will do this work. Sandra will do this work. Karthik will work on this. Priya will do the code review. So team members will decide who will work on which activity. So they are doing activity list creation. They're creating resource planning. Who's going to work on which task? They're doing estimation. Okay. And the job of the product owner, we'll learn about someone called product owner. This product owner should provide the goal. Okay, guys, you can work on these two activities, these two features, implement this in this iteration. So this is your iteration goal, and the requirements will come from the product owner. So the team members will not go and search for the requirements. They will only go and approach a product owner, give us the requirements. All right. If they have some doubts and questions with them about the product, and if they need more details, they'll ask the product owner. And the product owner will provide the acceptance criteria. See, guys, once this work is done, I will ask you X, Y, Z questions. You need to prove that these items are these criteria are fulfilled by the product. And once they got the acceptance criteria for the selected features, which are their sprint goal or iteration goal, and then they will do the sprint planning. And sprint planning is an activity. So as I already told you, it will happen on day one, and the duration of this meeting will be typically of 2 to 3 hours of duration. Okay, please remember this. First day, the meeting will go on for 2 to 3 hours. That's the first activity they will conduct in the beginning of every sprint or iteration. Once they're done with the sprint planning, they will come up with this outcome. This is called sprint backlog. Well, this is a meeting. Okay, it's an activity, and this is the output of this meeting. This is an artifact. This is a document. Okay, sprint planning. So this will have, okay, we're going to work on these items, 2 items, and for each item we have these many activities. Okay, we have to conduct this many activities, and what is the duration we need to spend on each activity, estimation, and who's going to work on each activity, resource allocation, and they will also know for each feature they selected to do in this iteration, what are the acceptance criteria. Okay, so they will put everything inside this document. It's called as sprint backlog. Okay, so remember, what's the difference between a product backlog and a sprint backlog? If someone asks you in which document we maintain the project scope in Agile, your answer should be product backlog. For every iteration or sprint, what would be your team's plan, where you capture that plan? So we will capture this planning in form of sprint backlog, okay, or otherwise called as iteration backlog. Okay, so now we are done with half of the day. 2 to 3 hours is gone. We are left with typically roughly 9.5 days, right? Now this is the time the team members will use. To build these 2 features. Okay, so they will work on daily basis from here onwards. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Okay, so there are 10 days. On the 10th day, we expect that these 2 activities, these 2 features are implemented. Okay, so the team members will do the development, design, testing, all the plan activities they have in the sprint backlog, and come up with the increments. Increments are about the completed features. So let's say in this case, user authentication and account overview page. So these are done. Now the team members cannot, so the team members have tested these features. Okay, they are working well. Everything is fine. Can they deliver this to client directly? Is it okay? Everything is fine. The work is done according to the requirements. The team members have tested these features using the acceptance criteria provided by the product owner. Everything is good, no bug in the implemented features. Can they directly transfer or send this file, this features to the client? Is it okay or not acceptable? What's your opinion? We must um, review the done work with the key stakeholders, especially the product owner. Okay, the product owner will review the done work. In the last day of the sprint, on the 10th day of the sprint, we will have a meeting called sprint review, otherwise called as iteration review. We also call this meeting as product demo meeting. Okay, so here we will demonstrate the done work to the key stakeholders, including the product owner. Sponsor will be there, and the work will be reviewed. We seek feedback. You see, this is where we discover the unknown requirements. We need to conduct the product demo meeting. If there are any issues, or we didn't do the work correctly, or sometimes after reviewing the done work, the stakeholders will get some inspirations, some ideas. They will share that, okay, go back and add this into the feature in the next iteration. This iteration is over. We're done with the time, the resources. So if anything to be done extra on top of what we have done so far, we need to move that to the next iteration. You understand? Because we have only half a day left out. We're on the 10th day of the sprint. And based on this input, the features will be updated in the next iteration. Sometimes your client would say, I'm fine with this work and deliver this feature to me. I'm giving my acceptance. So the product owner should finalize and say, okay, this feature is done. We are giving the acceptance. No one else can give acceptance for the done work except the product owner. Okay. Let's say you have some 5 people in the product demo meeting, your sponsor, people, your client, your PMO, and so on. You also have your product owner. Um, After doing the demo, some of the stakeholders are not okay with the work, but the product owner is fine with the work. Can we say the work is done? What's your opinion? Three, four stakeholders are not okay with the done work, but the product owner is fine with the work. Can we say this work is done or not done? Yes. If the product owner is okay with the work, it is done. Maybe the product owner will ask these stakeholders why you guys are not okay. But for the team, for the Scrum Master, if the product owner is okay, then the work is done. Because only the product owner should give the acceptance for the done work. You understand? It's not some five people should sign off and say this work is done. The judgment will be made by only by the product owner. Remember this. Okay. You might see this scenario in the exam. So if the product owner says okay, no co-sign off, no co-approval. The product owner says it's done, it's done. If the product owner is not saying okay, then it's not okay. The work is not okay. All right. So likewise, like this, let's say out of these two features, we completed one got accepted. The first feature got accepted. This one, this not got accepted. We got some review feedback. Okay, so we're gonna move this to the next sprint, and along with this, we will take a few more items because just to fix this, this thing for the feedback, received feedback, you don't need 10 days of time, right? So we take this as part of our next iteration goal. But in addition to this, we will also pick one or two more features and do the same. The whole process will be repeated. Okay. So this is how we complete the project. So let's say in every iteration, we're completing one, two features. Okay. Maybe after completing 10, 15 iterations, we would complete all the items in the product backlog. This is how we do projects in Agile. Are you clear with the overall approach or the process flow? Please confirm in the chat. Do you have any questions, doubts? This is a foundation. Now we're going to learn about all the boxes you see in this picture in detail. There are like 20 slides for each boxes. Okay. We will learn about all these things in detail in the future, but now we need to have a mind map. Which happened first, why we do something this way, okay? What are the different meetings happens in a sprint and so on. Are you clear? Fine. Okay. Any questions, doubts? All good?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So during the on daily basis, so this is our execution. Okay. So this is planning and this is execution. And during execution, the team members will conduct something called a daily stand-up meeting. Okay, daily stand-up meeting, also called as Scrum meeting. This is where they do monitoring and controlling. We will check whether things are going according to the plan. We have a plan, we are doing the work. Is it going according to the plan or deviating? Okay, so here we do inspection and adaptation. So this is part of monitoring and controlling. On daily basis, we will conduct the daily stand-up meeting. It should not go more than 15 to 20 minutes. You have to keep it very short. And one student asked me, Ahmad, why we call this as daily stand-up meeting? So I told this is to create sense of urgency. If you let people to sit in a meeting, people will talk about trivial things. So to create a sense of urgency, to promote productivity, we do this meeting as a stand-up meeting. Then this learner asked me, okay, if people are working from home, will they sit or stand? Okay, you can sit, you can stand, but the point is make sure you don't spend a lot of time in doing this meeting. Okay, we should not try to solve problems during this meeting. We have to schedule a follow-up meeting. So this is about monitoring and controlling. And product demo meeting, it's also about monitoring and controlling. Product demo, otherwise called as the sprint review meeting. Okay, sprint review, iteration review, product demo, everything is the same. So what are the outcomes of the sprint review? Either we get feedback or we get acceptance for the done work. Okay, these are the two outcomes of a product demo or a sprint review meeting. This is about monitoring and controlling. If things are not done according to the expectation of stakeholders, we get feedback, isn't it? And after this, so this happens on the 10th day of the sprint. After this, we'll connect one more meeting. This is called retrospective meeting. So again, this is about monitoring and controlling. The team members will sit together and discuss what went wrong, what went right in this meeting, in this iteration. Did we overestimated the features? Did we do proper planning for the resources? Did we got all the requirements? How about testing? Why this bugs are missed in testing and found in the review product demo meeting? This is very embarrassing. Why this happened? All right. Why there was less productivity in the just conducted sprint? So team members will discuss about things went wrong, things went right. Both of them will be discussed, and they will figure out okay how to avoid these problems in the future iterations. This is about continuous improvement. Also, if something good happened, they will figure out how to continue this in the next upcoming iterations. Okay, we have to stay away from bad things, so resolve them, and we should continue the good things. For example, we did knowledge sharing in this, and this helped the other team members. Okay, we will continue this in the future as well. Okay, so that's about retrospective. So daily stand-up meeting, product demo meeting, retrospective meeting, these three are about monitoring and controlling. So we have planning, we have execution, we are monitoring and controlling. And once you got the acceptance, the work is sent to the client, isn't it? So this is about iteration closure. And then we begin the next iteration. So this works very well for projects where you have a lot of requirement uncertainty and solution complexity. Now you need to create a mind map with what we learned so far. Okay, we know about many things on a high level. Now we're going to deepen our understanding about these things going forward.
I'm confident that you find this video very useful. If you're planning to take your PMP certification, then you can attend our PMP exam online training. The first 10 hours of the training are for no cost. You can enroll in our boot camp to learn many key project management concepts in the first 10 hours, and if you like the training, you can continue with us by paying the training fee. Well, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Leave your opinion about this video in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. I will see you again with another interesting video. Bye.